Alright, so tonight we're going to continue lessons, valuable lessons and moral teachings from the Parasha. And this week is Parashat Tetze. Since the holidays are approaching and we won't be able to meet here on Tuesdays because of the various holidays coming out on Tuesdays, and we want to finish the next Parshiot, Kitavo, Nitzavim Vayelech, Azinu Vezot HaBeracha, so we may do them on Wednesdays. So like this we're able to catch up until Bereshit as well. Tonight's Parasha is a very, very important Parasha, and it's loaded. There's a lot of topics, a lot of mitzvot, which we can't cover all in about an hour. But I decided that one of the most important themes in this Parasha deals with marriage. There are various kinds of relationships that are described in this week's Parasha, different kinds, some good, some bad. So I think it's important to talk a little bit about this topic of marriage. Why is it that certain marriages, certain relationships succeed and some don't? Everybody wants to succeed in life. Apparently there's something wrong with what people do, which is why there's so much divorce these days. So I was thinking as follows. Imagine you want to bake a cake, or you want to cook something that is very, very special, very unique, that requires quite a few ingredients. You want it to succeed too, you want it to be tasty. So in order for you to succeed in putting this together, whether it's a cake or any other dish, you want to make sure you have a good recipe, a recipe that has been tested by others, that has succeeded. You don't want to take a chance. It's a very important dish, it's an important cake, an anniversary cake, whatever. So you want to get the right ingredients, you want to get the right recipe. So people look for all kinds of recipes, whether it's a cake or any other dish. They try different things and they realize with time which one works best for them, which ones don't. So in the same way that we are definitely concerned about having a good recipe for food, could you imagine if there was some recipe for love? What is the right recipe? A recipe that works. What are the ingredients that make up for a good relationship? I was thinking about that, using that comparison, in the kitchen, whether it's chocolate chip cookies or anything that works for certain people. What would be the recipe for a lasting relationship? Now, even if you do have the recipe for a lasting relationship, for a good marriage, what you also want to have is the ingredients that are necessary to preserve this relationship. What that means is as follows. Love could be something that is very, very special, and it's there, it exists in the very beginning, but who's to say, who's to guarantee that you will be able to preserve it for a long time? It's not that you can just take this cake and put it in the freezer. See, I'm going to preserve it for 6 months. Some things will last for many months in the freezer. Well, you don't want to put your relationship in the freezer. On the contrary, you want it to be warm, not cold. So what could you do to preserve it? A lot of people forget that it's actually relatively easy to get married. If you find a person that you like, you get along with, you have common interests and goals. So getting married, putting together a banquet and agreeing on the basics is relatively easy, even though a lot of people are having a hard time these days. That could be because of all kinds of reasons, including that they're picky. But I think most people would agree that to get there is not so easy. You know what's the hard part? Staying married. People will have gotten married thinking that they've made the right choice, and you know what? There's a good chance they did make the right choice. It's just that they don't know how to hold on to it. And I have a whole lecture about that, how to stay married, not how to get married. Even though how to get married is important, and there are lectures about that, how to recognize your soulmate, what is a soulmate, which helps a little bit. In the end, we believe, as Jews, that everything is divinely ordained, it's predestined. A zivuk, as we call it, a soulmate, is from heaven, or as they say in English, that marriages are made in heaven, at least the good ones. But it's up to us, up to our free will, what we do with it. There is some free will, and that is how we behave. How we behave is not dictated from above. Matches need to be dictated to a certain degree because only Hashem knows which soul is compatible with another soul. So that part has to be done from above, for the most part. Even though we think we're making the decision, in reality, most of the time, and I say most of the time because there are times people make a mistake when they put too much emphasis, for example, on a girl that has money, all kinds of things that can mislead you. And if one does not have enough merits upstairs, they let you make a mistake. Hashem doesn't want us to make a mistake. He wants us to succeed in life. Why not? He doesn't want divorces. He created human beings to reproduce, to live in this world peacefully, and that's his intent. It's people, human beings, that mess things up. So he does bring people together, but what those people do with that partnership, that relationship, that marriage, is many, many times pretty much up to them. So what is it that makes a marriage successful, or God forbid, a failure? So if you look at the Parasha, Parashat Tetze, which initially begins with going out to war. Tetze means when you go out to war. And this is not a major battle per se that involves Eretz Israel, to conquer the land, because the laws of war for that type of war are somewhat different. And I'm not going to get into all the details of the different types of war. Here we're talking about a battle that can take place at any time, and there are many soldiers going to battle. And what happens in battle? In battle, you have what's called a yetzer hara, an evil inclination, shemishtolel. I like that Hebrew word, mishtolel. Mishtolel means that goes wild. War is wild, and not only dangerous, but people's emotions, feelings, mind, they act very, very differently than when they act in peace, when they're at home, at work. War is very, very cruel, and it brings out the worst in human beings. And you can see this from just about any battle in history that is well documented. You will see what happens to the women. Many of them are raped at battle, as though the soldiers have permission to do so. And you think that this is something that's just overlooked? No, sometimes they actually intentionally, encourage the soldiers to do that, depending on the army. This is not just something that's overlooked. Okay, it happens. No. Sometimes it's actually planned this way, whether it's just to give the soldiers that opportunity that they need, or whether it's because they should abuse the enemy. Regardless, this is the fact of life. This happens all over the world, believe it or not. So as a result of this war, human beings will not really behave in the most healthiest manner. Even though they're Jewish, and even though they are hopefully regulated, guided by the laws of the Torah knows the nature of the human being. Sure. The nature of the human being is that whether you're Chinese, whether you're Swedish, whether you're South American, human beings have a lot of common things. And the Torah recognizes that the religion or the fear of God that one may have may not be sufficient to control one's passions, one's desires, when they run wild. So what you're going to hear now, even though I'm not going to get into detail because it's a long topic to discuss in depth, the topic of Eshet Yifat Toar that the Torah discusses, how come it is okay to do certain things at a time of war that otherwise the Torah would forbid. So I'm going to cover a little bit of that, so you should understand that it has nothing to do with something which the Torah accepts as the norm. We're talking about a time of war, and the whole goal over here is to channel certain negative energies that may come out in a way where the individual will have the most self-restraint as possible. In other words, let's control those passions, let's somehow guide this individual to realize on his own, when he finally comes down and matures because sometimes people are not mature enough, they need time to see things with greater clarity. Let's guide him in a certain way, which is a very unconventional way. That's the way I call it. A very unconventional way, so that he can really see for himself whether his decision is right or wrong. Because this is a time of war, and those decisions can easily be wrong. So, in talking about relationships, we're going to be seeing one type of relationship now that is unhealthy. There are some relationships that are very healthy. And we're going to talk about those too, but we're going to first begin with a relationship that is not healthy. A relationship, an intimate relationship, with potential of marriage, that comes about as a result of passion. That comes about as a result of a Jewish man seeing what he thinks is a beautiful woman. Someone that he dreamt about all his life. She's a prisoner of war, right? One army defeats another army, they take prisoners, he says, oh, great, I like this one. And he doesn't realize at that moment, because he's still in the middle of the war, that this is not the right match for him, that this is not pure love, that this is really not marriage material for him. For somebody else maybe, but not for him. He's being somewhat misguided by what he sees. Remember, the eyes are not always the best judges. You need to evaluate the situation, you need to look into it, you need to investigate it. You want to make a very important decision now. Is this going to be your partner for life? The mother of your children? Does she have what it takes now? Obviously, we don't have the answers to all those questions. We don't have prophecy. There's always a little bit of a risk involved. But you need to do your homework. You need to pray to Hashem. But be very, very careful that it's not the passion that is guiding you here. Because if it is, then there's a good chance it's going to be wrong. In order to understand a little bit why a certain relationship is not good, not healthy, I like to use the example of food again. Remember, we're talking about recipes? So think about a cake. Now, many cakes are going to use eggs in the recipe. Very important ingredient. So imagine you have this fluffy cake, it came out just right, the temperature was good, it looks right, the color, everything. You didn't realize, but you used rotten eggs. Now you know that's very, very unhealthy. A rotten egg especially, a lot of things that are rotten are no good, but a rotten egg is dangerous. So you won't be able to tell if you threw in the eggs right away into the batter, whatever, and later on you taste it and there's something wrong, but you don't even notice it then, because all those eggs are covered up with chocolate and sugar and dough, and you don't really detect it. When do you detect it? When you feel it in your stomach, when you get stomach pains or diarrhea, that you realize you ate something bad. With certain relationships, you don't notice right away that it's bad, that it's unhealthy, until later. Later, when things fall apart, when you really get to know the person, say, no, this is no good. Then it becomes very, very difficult. What do you do now? A marriage counselor may not be the solution. So that is why the Torah, in this one example of an unhealthy relationship, needs to guide the individual properly, so that he on his own, early on, not later, early on, should on his own figure this out by following certain rules and get rid of it and stop it before it gets worse. You may have heard how some young men claim that they're crazy about a girl. Have you heard that? Crazy about it. In Israel or in Hebrew they say, Ani meshuga aleha. I'm crazy about her. You want to know something? They're really crazy. When somebody uses that kind of an expression to describe that he has feelings, that he cares about someone, that he really thinks that there's love in the air, he's delusional. It's not possible to be crazy about someone. That's not what love is all about. What is that called? The closest word that I can think of in English would be infatuation, and in Spanish, amor ciego, blind love, which is more or less the same idea. It's not real. It's superficial. It's not what they call love, even though people use love to describe that. It's not love. So, at a time of war, this can happen. This kind of a relationship can develop. not real love, but infatuation with something that he believes this is the real thing, and it's not the real thing. It's the Yetzer Hara Shemishtollel, it's the evil inclination that is running wild. At time of war, the Yetzer Hara runs very, very wild. And he wants this, what appears to him to be a beautiful woman. Now, on the outside, by the way, it could be that she is really beautiful. So what? You know what they say about beauty. Beauty is only skin deep. That's it. So even though beauty from the outside, sheker achem be'evel hayofi, Solomon reminds us that beauty is all vain. Really, that's not what makes a woman special. It's Isha Yirat Hashem, if she's God-fearing, if she has good character, good nature. You want to get along with the person. Right? So the beauty will not do it. Obviously, if she has good character, good nature, she's intelligent, and she's beautiful, you're a lucky man. But that by itself is not enough. On the contrary, it's misleading. So what does the Torah do? We have this soldier here who is infatuated and who believes that this is something good for him, but we know it's unhealthy. If the Torah says, Asur, it's forbidden, he may not listen. Remember, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is going wild. He may do something that's forbidden. So the Torah channels that negative energy in a way to teach him. The whole idea is here to teach him. You'll see for yourself if you follow these instructions. Okay, she's yours, fine, take her. But just do the following instructions and you hopefully on your own will figure this out. So I'm not going to get into all the instructions. You can read it in the beginning of the Parasha. But in general, basically what the instructions involve is let's go ahead and peel off the beauty. How are we going to peel off her physical beauty? She's going to be in your home for a whole month. She's going to let her nails grow. She's going to she's going to remove all her beautiful clothes that she had at the time she was a prisoner. She's going to shave off her hair. We're going to try to remove all that physical beauty temporarily. Obviously, she's not going to be left that way, so that you can take a good close look at her. How does she appear to you now, after all of that? After she's been crying for her family that she hasn't seen. Remember, she was first a prisoner. So bring her into that state where she's in somewhat of a state of semi-prisoner. She's not completely prisoner because you want to marry her, but she's semi-prisoner because she doesn't have her complete freedom, and she doesn't have all that beauty, her makeup, and everything that makes her beautiful. Take a look at her then and see what you think. What is happening here? The Torah is guiding this individual, the soldier, to realize that perhaps what attracted him was the passion, the chukka, not the fact that this is really something compatible with him, something that's really healthy and good for him. No. So what will this process do? It will help him to distinguish between external beauty and internal beauty. How do you see the difference between external beauty and internal beauty? External beauty will hypnotize you. Internal beauty you will admire. So if you come to admire something about her, you're seeing her internal beauty. If you're just hypnotized by her appearance, that's external. See? So the Torah is helping this individual decide what exactly are you looking at. Let's peel off that external beauty. You see still something special about her? The Torah says probably not. You will not want her after that. And you on your own will realize it was all infatuation. Okay, so let's assume he learned his lesson. And he says, how am I ever going to know if it's love then and not infatuation? Well, in order to know what real love is, you have to know what love means. What does love mean? Judaism defines love as the act of doing for another individual, of caring for them. Whereas a lot of times, anything that's involved or resembles passion is something that I want for myself. I desire it. Oh, you want this relationship for yourself? You like it because it appeals to you? Or are you in the mood of setting up a home with someone that you will share everything about life with them, that you will build something together, that you want to take care of, that you want to show your love and your respect for? This is what love is all about. Love is to care. That's the best word, I think, in English. To care about another individual as much as you want them to care about you. And that's difficult for a lot of people who are a little bit too selfish to care for someone else. Now imagine somebody that gets married at 45. He's been caring about himself for many years now. To now begin marriage to care about someone, it's more difficult than if he got married when he was 23. He could still have a beautiful, happy marriage even though he's marrying late. It's still possible. I'm just saying that many times it's more difficult, because if it's really about caring and you're all about yourself, you've been living by yourself and taking care of yourself, it's just a little bit more difficult. So true love, the way Judaism defines it, is not passion, even though there's always a certain percentage of healthy passion in a good relationship. There should be, but that's not what the love is about. That's just one of the ingredients of the relationship. The real love is being prepared to give of yourself to another human being. So where do we see a healthy relationship in this week's parasha? As I said before, there's various examples of relationships. We see that later on when the Torah speaks about soldiers going to war again. But this time, the one who's being drafted tells the officers, I just got engaged, just got married. This is my first year. Oh, really? Go back home, you're not going to battle. You're exempt. We won't draft you. Why? Because the first year is very, very fundamental for the success of a long-term relationship. We want this marriage to last for a long time. Make sure the first year is the best year possible. That is when you're going to be cementing the relationship. The first year, think of it, you're laying the foundation. Strong foundation, showing love for each other, respect for each other, doing a lot of things together. Once time goes by, there's kids, they're going to take some of their attention too. A lot of things will happen. You're going to get a job, you're going to be busy. So you want to cement the relationship the first year. Later on, you also want to do the right things. And be careful with not doing the wrong things. But cement the relationship the first year. So how does the Torah tell us to do that? The Torah says, V'simach et ishto. He should make his wife happy. So Rashi, commentary Rashi says, look at the word et ishto. It doesn't say im ishto. It doesn't say that he should be happy with his wife. He should make his wife happy. There's a big difference. Because it's not about just being happy. It's about the act of making somebody else happy. So you're using that year to make your spouse happy. By doing all kinds of things that will make them happy. This has to happen during the first year. What does all this tell us? That a lot of investment needs to go into the relationship, especially in the very beginning. Investment, compromise, all kinds of things, in order to prove to the other one that she can trust you, you can trust her. There's a lot of things that need to happen. And if anything goes wrong during the first year, if it's a big, big problem, that's not a good sign. It shouldn't go wrong. I mean, we're talking about major issues. You want to succeed. You want this cake to come out right. Hopefully you're going to make sure you have the right ingredients from the very beginning. You're going to learn how to do this. You don't want to make a mistake. So if you have the right ingredients, there's a very good chance that B'ezrat Hashem, this cake will be very, very tasty and everybody will enjoy it and you will be proud of it. So what is going to be invested here? Caring about another individual, giving to them, the act of giving, not just of receiving or taking for yourself. A lot of times when people like something, it's because they want it for themselves. Imagine somebody saying, I love chocolate. Do you really love the chocolate? You want it for yourself. You want to eat it. The love is not a good word to use. In English, people just use all kinds of words that don't belong with food. They love. Do you really love a food? You like it. You want it for yourself. That's what you're saying. You want to eat it. You don't want to eat your wife. Right? To love another human being, it doesn't have to be a wife, by the way, it could be another human being, it means that you really want to do for them. You want to give to them, not to take from them. If they give you something, that's very, very nice, but don't expect it. You really want to give to them because you care about them. Now, with your children, you're going to give because naturally that bond exists with children. Hashem made it so. The parents should want to take care of the children. Now, I know there's some people who are not healthy in the mind and they throw the babies in the garbage can. I'm not talking about all kinds of things like that, where people do terrible things that you hear about in the news these days with their own children. I'm talking about healthy minds now. Hashem put it into the human psyche instinctively to love one's child. And I think that's been throughout history. One can see that in every culture. Even though there were some cultures that did some terrible things, like sacrifice their children. But that's just because of a certain belief, the wrong belief that they had. But otherwise, the bond between parent and child is very, very strong, especially from a parent to a child, much more than from the child to the parent. Two human beings that are not related, it's a little bit more difficult. You have to work on it. You have to develop it. You have to invest in it. And sometimes you have to invest a lot. It takes hard work because their two are very different backgrounds, different mentalities. They don't understand each other very, very well. It may require more work. As it is, I've explained many times, men and women are so different that they better be trained and guided as to knowing how to deal with each other, because they speak completely different languages, men and women. It doesn't mean it can't work out. What's necessary? The right ingredients. One of those ingredients is that you want this to succeed. You're going to therefore pay attention that the cake is at the right temperature, not too long, not too little. Do everything right, just follow instructions. If you follow the instructions, use the right ingredients, why not? Why shouldn't it work? So obviously they say in English, I think it takes two to tango. You know, they both need to cooperate. It's not just that man will do everything right. We're talking about that the two want this to succeed. They really want it to succeed, and they're going to work hard at making it a success. So what do we see from all this so far? That in order for the relationship to be healthy, to succeed, and to last, there has to be a nechonut, there has to be a readiness, there has to be a willingness on the part of the two people to make it work. They have to want it. If they want it badly enough, then hopefully they will do whatever it takes to make it work. So how are we going to preserve it? The relationship started out very, very well. They have common interests, common goals. They're very compatible. There's physical attraction too. Everything is there. But you'll be surprised, even though things start off on the right foot, sometimes they fail because of mistakes, all kinds of mistakes. So in order to avoid those mistakes in this week's parasha, again, you have various mitzvot, which are also lessons and advice on how to avoid the many pitfalls that occur. Just about every relationship. Remember, life is full of tests. We all go through all kinds of challenges. We can't control that. What can we do? Make sure that we act, that we behave properly. Because we will be tested, we will be challenged, whether it's by all kinds of nasty neighbors or people who do all kinds of terrible things to you. Whether it's an insult, whether it's a lawsuit, whether it's being fired from a job, all kinds of challenges. It could be illness, it could be a fight in the family, all kinds of things that we are just exposed to and we can't run away from. That we can't control, but what we can control is how we react. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to deal with it? How we deal with it depends on us, nothing else. What happens in the outside does not depend on us. We have no control over it. So here, we want to preserve the relationship despite the hardships that may come along. Yes, husband becomes sick, the wife becomes, God forbid, sick, child becomes sick, or he doesn't do well in school. All kinds of challenges that can really tear apart the relationship. In-laws getting involved in the marriage, which many people unfortunately have to deal with. All kinds of things that can really challenge the relationship. So how do we make sure that this relationship is preserved, that it lasts forever? So in this week's parasha, you have the following ideas. That even though they don't necessarily have anything directly to do with marriage, I borrow from them because they apply. Torah tells us, be careful, even though you're at the battlefield, make sure that you maintain your cleanliness, your holiness. The Shekhinah, the divine presence, is around you. So make sure that your camp is holy, that there's nothing that is not right, not proper in your midst. In other words, that there's a lack of modesty, that you're dressed properly, that you conduct yourself properly even though you're in the battlefield. Do your best to preserve the sanctity of your surroundings. Otherwise, what could happen if you're not careful with that? The divine presence will leave you. How does this apply to the home? The home is a form of camp. This is your camp. This is your home. Make sure that it's holy. You don't want to drive away the divine presence. The divine presence wants to be there in your home, to bless that home. So if anything is introduced to that home that would make it unholy, like all that TV programs that show a lot of britzut, I guess you can call it, all kinds of immoral behavior, and totally very, very not nice language being used, all types of lack of respect for that which is holy. All kinds of, you know what I mean, all kinds of behavior that is very, very indifferent to the sanctity of a home, where children can be exposed and see all kinds of terrible things. And this could be even crime. Anything that is very, very unhealthy for the eye to see. So if you introduce that into that home, you're driving away that which is holy. That which would help build this home and build the children as well. So that already in itself is a very, very important ingredient for the preservation of the home, not just the marriage, the sanctity of the home. How spiritual is it? Is it very materialistic? Even though we're not talking about materialism right now, but I'm just using this as an example. What is being emphasized? What is being allowed into that home that may drive away the Shekhinah, the divine presence? And if the divine presence is not there, you could easily fall apart. You could easily collapse. Rabbis tell us that if rats or mice enter a house, the rat is not the thief. Rats will eat. Don't blame it on the rat, blame it on the hole. You know who's the thief? The hole. You left an opening there. Had there not been an opening, the rats would not have come in. When people have rats, mice, it's not enough just to call the exterminator. You have to find any hole that's there and seal it. That's the first thing to do. So if you have all these things infiltrating the home, unhealthy influence, it's not those influences that are going to be to blame. It's you that left the hole open, that you allow them to come in. So that whether it's the TV or unfiltered internet, anything that you have no control over, that is very, very unhealthy for the mind, for the eyes to see, for the children. If you don't somehow control it or get rid of it, which is even better, then that's going to be a very important factor that will contribute towards the collapse, Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, of a good, strong Jewish home. Because this is not compatible with our values. With other people's homes, they may have an average home. It doesn't make a difference to them. And even they are in danger of losing their children, losing the respect of the children. But we're not talking about others right now. We're talking about the Jewish home because the value system needs to be preserved. And therefore, anything that's incompatible will ruin it. So, how will it ruin it? It will ruin the relationship. It will weaken the relationship with God. And therefore, subsequently as well, it will weaken the relationship between husband and wife. That's what it tends to do. Unholiness is very, very powerful. Let's call it impurity. Very, very powerful. It can do a lot of damage. Now, it's easy to understand how it does damage spiritually to a person's connection with God. Because he loses interest in prayer, perhaps he doesn't learn as much Torah. He's no longer as serious about life, about his mistakes. But how does it weaken the relationship of the spouse? So imagine somebody watches TV and he sees this beautiful actress that happens to be young too, and he looks at his wife next to him and he says, wait a minute, am I stuck with this one? She's more beautiful. A lot of people begin to compare when they see, that this woman is no longer as beautiful as she was when she was in her early 20s or whatever, when they got married. That's human nature. If you just leave it the way it is, raw nature, they tend to do that, compare. One who doesn't give that a chance to enter the home, then hopefully it won't happen. Now, obviously it could happen in the streets when he's walking, if he looks around everywhere, especially if he uses the binoculars to see close-ups. Obviously these people are sick. We're not talking about those people. People can be innocent, and still, after a while, this will have an effect. It will sink in, and it will say, wait a minute, this seems a little bit better, this is more comfortable, this is too harsh, she's very demanding of me, all kinds of excuses. These are real excuses. So, number one, be sure that there are no holes in the home that will allow things that are unholy to infiltrate and to ruin an otherwise good relationship. Number two, the Torah tells us, Motzat sefatecha tishmor, guard your tongue. Guard what comes out of your mouth. Which means you made a promise, keep it. That's very important, that people keep their promises. You promise something, you're a man of your word, you're serious about it, be truthful, and keep your promise. Even though we value this very, very much, it's definitely a good characteristic, a very important one. What I think can be included in this mitzvah is watch your mouth, don't contaminate it. Don't curse, don't criticize in a very abusive way. In other words, that same sefatecha, your lips, those words that come out of your mouth, that you want to watch, that you want to make sure if you made a promise that you keep, the same way you can apply it to how do you use your mouth in the relationship. Be careful, because that mouth is powerful. It's a powerful weapon. If you misuse it, you can hurt a lot of people. Insulting them, abusing them, yelling at them, cursing, God forbid, which is even worse. So watch out. Preserve the sanctity of that mouth. And if you have a hard time, just look back. Go back in time a little bit. Remember when you were under the chuppah, when you were just getting married? What did you tell your wife when you gave her the ring? You put that ring on her finger. You said to her some very special words. Areat mekudeshet li. You said, you are betrothed to me, I guess in English. I'm marrying you by placing this ring on your finger. But the words mekudeshet mean more than that. You're not just becoming the wife. You are sanctified to me. Mekudeshet. You're using the word kedusha. You're sanctified. What does sanctified mean? Only she is yours and only you are hers. You belong to other women. She does not belong to other men. It's just you and her. Mekudeshet, sanctified. Sanctified means it's strong, it's united, it's one. And you use such beautiful words to convey that message to her. Why not use that same mouth that said such beautiful words back then? Now, you are special, you're holy to me. So much depends on the mouth. The compliments we give, some people are hungry for them. Some people don't care. They don't need any compliments whatsoever. But usually, I'm told, and I'm still learning, that women need it all the time. So they tell you. We don't need it as much, but that's the fact of life. If they tell you they need it, then they're not joking about it. They need it. So therefore, that mouth is a very powerful tool. Be careful not to misuse it. If anything, use it in the right way. Don't look down, don't denigrate, don't disparage, don't say anything that will be very insulting and painful, because what happens after a while is all the insults and all the painful feelings that have accumulated, they leave scars, bruises that don't heal so easily. they've accumulated over the years. You go to a marriage counselor after 10 years of fighting, all the feelings have been lost, disappeared. I'm no longer interested, they tell me, when I try to make peace with them. I've lost all feelings for him or for her. She has said, or he has said, or he has behaved, or she has behaved in such a way, very, very hard to reconcile. It's still possible, but it's very difficult. So much is there, how are you going to erase it? So you have to be careful with that mouth. Another very important idea that is discussed in this parasha is ungratefulness, kfiyut tova. Where do we see it? The Torah tells us, listen, people want to convert and be Jewish, they're welcome. And obviously if they do, it is possible that marriage can be arranged as well with them, depending on if a person is a Kohen or not. There's some limitations. But Ammon and Moab are not invited, the males. So it says these people, these nations, are not invited. They cannot marry you. They cannot be part of your nation. Wow. An Egyptian, even though you were enslaved by him, after 3 generations, it's okay. You have to wait a little bit, but after 3 generations, it's okay for them to marry you. What happened to these two, Ammon and Moab? By the way, today you won't know who they are. Everybody's mixed up. So at the time when they were able to identify these nations, the Torah says, no. These two have a very ugly characteristic that is very incompatible with Judaism, and it's not good for you. It's called ungratefulness. If you go back in history, the Torah says you will see how much you helped them, your forefathers did, and what they did to you. They wanted to hurt you. So I'm not going to get into all the details of where. There are various examples where they did anything they can to hurt us. How could you hurt somebody that did you a favor? That's called kfiyut tova. Somebody that did you a favor, and you not only say thank you, but you're also backstabbing him. That's the worst ungratefulness. That kind of a characteristic is unwelcome. Cannot be introduced into Judaism. It's not good for you. It's unhealthy. This is somebody that you don't want to have around you. How does this apply to a relationship? Yes, sometimes it happens that we're upset perhaps at home, something went wrong. Okay. But you got to give credit to your spouse for the good things that they do. It's not that everybody just does bad things and that's it. People make mistakes, but okay. But what about the good things? Have you given her or him credit for all the good things? Because giving credit means that you're grateful. People have come to me and said, she's not a good cook. She's too much on the phone. All kinds of complaints, typical complaints. Tell me how she is a mother to the kids. Oh, she's the best mother. No mother like her. You see? Focus on the good. Nobody has all the good qualities. I hope nobody has all the bad qualities either. So when you give credit, especially if you look back in time, remember all the good things she did for you in your early years of the marriage? Remember this, remember that? Why don't you give her credit for that? Thank her for that. Show your appreciation for it. Otherwise you're being ungrateful. So ungratefulness can really destroy a relationship because people are not focusing on all the good that was there and may still be there now. Only the negative. Why pick on the negative? I like to point to Hashem, God. Sometimes Hashem tells us, listen, I'm very unhappy with you. You don't have too many merits. I shouldn't be kind to you. But you know what? Zacharti lach chesed ne'uraich. I look back to the past, long past, how you were with me. You went along with me. You went out to the desert with me. I remember that kindness. I remember those days. And therefore, I'm going to be kind to you now. Because of that. And even if we don't have that, we still have zchut avot, the merit of your forefathers. I remember your grandparents. So you see, Hashem does take everything in consideration. Why not you? Things are not the way it should be. You're unhappy, yes, but what about the past? There was a lot of good memories, weren't there? Give her credit. That's how it was in the very beginning, in the very early years of marriage. Wasn't it good then? Then why did you forget that? Rabbi Shimon, in Pirkei Avot, in Ethics of Our Fathers, says that one of the worst qualities that a person can ever have is halove ve'eno meshalem. Person that borrows money and doesn't pay it back. And you wonder, wow, why did he choose to talk about that? He's the one that earlier said that a good characteristic to develop, a positive one, is haro'eh tanolad, who sees the future, who evaluates his actions before he does them, who considers everything because he doesn't want to make a mistake. So he's ro'eh tanolad. What will be the consequences of what I do? Very good outlook, very good way of making decisions by contemplating the nolad, the future, the consequences. So here he's talking about the opposite, and you wonder, how is this the opposite? All the other rabbis gave a positive and a negative, and they seem to be pretty much talking about the same thing. A good eye, an evil eye, a good heart, a bad heart. Here he's talking about what appear to be two different characteristics. Yes, it's important to look at the future, to evaluate our actions before we do them, to try to think what will be the consequences. That's a good characteristic. So how come he says that a negative one is halofeh ve'eno meshalem, one who borrows money doesn't pay it back? Well, the easy answer is, apparently this guy doesn't see the consequences of his actions, because before he knows it, nobody's going to want to lend him money. So halofeh ve'eno meshalem is not ro'eh tanolad, he doesn't see the future, doesn't evaluate the consequences of his character. But that's not what's so bad about it. So he won't get a loan. You know what's bad about it? Borrows money, people were so nice to you, and you don't pay it back, totally ungrateful. We're talking about ungratefulness here. How could you do that? We're talking about a guy who has the money, by the way. I've heard of a lot of cases where people borrowed money, they claim they don't have, but they took a long vacation in Hawaii with the family. How could you allow yourself this vacation if you owe people money? You can't do that. It's not right. Especially if you said you don't have it. If you said, I have it, but I'll give it to you in a couple months from now, or take a little bit now, that's different. To lie about it, that you don't have it here, you're spurging on yourself. Total ungrateful. He's totally ungrateful about the favor, the kindness that was shown to him. Terrible, terrible characteristic. Now you know why in our prayer books we have so much emphasis on being thankful to Hashem, wherever you turn. Towards the end of the Amidah we say, that to you it is befitting to thank you. In the morning we wake up, thank you Hashem for restoring my breath, my soul. A lot of people did not wake up this morning. The blessings that we make all day, we're thankful. We show that we're grateful for everything He does. We don't take it for granted. Such an important midah to develop. And for this relationship to continue on, you have to have that. You have to thank the individual. She owes it to me. I married her, so it's her duty to cook. What is she, a slave? A lot of people think yes. That's their mentality, a slave. And you know what? Maybe I should have two of them, not one. Two slaves. Distorted way of thinking, very unhealthy. So the Torah has to remind us, this will not work. You can end up in a very, very bad relationship and divorce, God forbid. Another idea expressed in this parasha with another unhealthy relationship is a couple getting married and the man accusing his wife for not being a virgin. I'm using just one example. There could be other things that he accuses her of. And it's called alilot devarim. Accusations. Unfounded accusations. Unfounded, not real. What are you doing? Perhaps have a nice conversation with her if you really are concerned about something. Alilot devarim, and he goes public about it. Terrible, terrible. He doesn't realize what he's doing. Sir, do you want to succeed in a relationship? Or do you want to have war at home? What are you doing? What is this all about? So sometimes when people accuse, criticize, and say terrible things for a long time, that's going to lead to disaster. It's going to be very difficult to fix. As I said earlier, the bruises are there. They've never healed. Anytime bruises happen and you don't immediately make peace and reconcile and they accumulate, it will be very, very difficult to treat later on in life. In Hebrew, The word nesuin says a lot. It's not just about marriage. The word nesuin, the root of the word nesuin means to carry, naso. When we're getting married, we're carrying. We're carrying a burden of sorts. It's a responsibility. And as a result of that, we have to assume that we've got to take care of certain things. The woman has to take care of certain things. We share responsibilities. It wouldn't be fair to accuse the other individual of, she's not doing this, she's not doing that. Perhaps that, what you're pointing to, is something that you need to do. Perhaps she's not capable of doing that. Perhaps, even though she needs to do that, she on her own cannot do it. Maybe she needs your help. That is why in this week's parasha you find another important concept. Hakem takim imo. You see an animal that's overloaded, remember? Overloaded animal. You have to help the guy unload. Maybe he can't do it on his own. Or to load the animal back again. It can be very difficult. Today we don't have these kind of situations, but we have something similar. We have cars. What if the guy has a flat tire? And he has no AAA, he has nobody else to help him. And you can help him. You have all the tools necessary and the know-how. You're not going to stop the car to help another individual. A lot of people don't care. There's a lot of people out there that simply don't care, don't want to get involved. So here, this is your spouse, this is your relationship. Hakem takim imo. You want to help them. You want to carry. You want to be involved. You want to share in the pain, in the trouble here, not to give her everything. She needs to do it. It's her job. Yes, okay, maybe it's her job, but doesn't mean you can't help. I have to be fair. It works the other way around too. Yes, it's his job, but maybe you can help. Anytime people impose on the other, let the other person do everything, it shows that you don't care about it. What did we say earlier? What does love mean? To care. You care about it. Not because they're just a human being that needs help. They're your spouse, and you want to succeed. It's not easy. No, it's not easy because sometimes it conflicts with your schedules and all kinds of things, and that's part of life, the tests and challenges of life, that we have to make time for it, and if something is a priority, you're going to make time for it. Another concept, that is emotional help. Sometimes people need physical help, but they need emotional help too. They need encouragement. They're depressed, they're sad. Even though this is not necessarily in the parasha, I'm adding that as another aspect of help. We have the physical help, but we also need emotional help. And communication is one of those things that helps in that area. If people communicate enough, they can understand what's in the other person's heart and mind, what's troubling them. We need to make time for that. All of this is to carry, to care, to help in whatever way we can. Towards the end of the parasha, we have the concept of Evin ba'Evin, weights and measures. So even though it's more about business, you can apply it at home too. Honesty, trust. Are you honest in business? I hope so. How about at home? Can she trust you? Can you trust her? That is the key, really, the most important key perhaps of a healthy relationship is when they can trust each other. As Shlomo Melech says in the beginning of Eshtai, in the very beginning, Batach ba'alev ba'ala. The man's heart trusts his wife. You know what it is? That he can trust her with his eyes closed, that she'll take care of the home when he's not at home. She'll take care of the kids. That's the most beautiful blessing that a person can have, when he can really trust his wife, and the other way around, when she can trust her husband. In everything, I trust him that he really wants the best for us. If you have that, you're a lucky man. So we see from this week's parasha the importance of that honesty, not only in business but at home as well, and the trust that the two need to have for each other. Just like to end, that in this parasha we see different kinds of battles. You have the battle of Amalek towards the end, a very different kind of battle. We talk about evil, Amalek. And then we have another battle that just happens our way. Battles, regular wars. We also have marriages, the good and the not so good. And I was curious, is there perhaps some connection between the battles, the wars, and marriage? And the answer is as follows. They're very, very different in a very important way. You know why we have wars? Because everybody wants to win. No one wants to lose. Each one wants to win. This one wants to win. That one wants to win. They have battles. In a marriage, the whole idea is that they should both win. That's what it's all about. Not that one should win and one should lose. If that's what people think, then it won't work out. They have to both realize that it's about the two of them winning. If the two of them win, the children will win, the whole home will win. But what do we do? As a last note, what do we do with people who really drifted apart? They are no longer happy with each other, they drifted apart, they're thinking of divorce or thinking of separating. What can we do? Do we just give up hope? No, we never give up, by the way. Never give up. We always try to make shalom bayit, peace between them. It's important. It's really important. It's a big mitzvah for anyone to help the couple see what needs to be done to correct the mistakes and getting back together. Don't just let things the way they are. It's very unhealthy. Very unhealthy. Even if they don't divorce, even if they just stay the way they are, but they're not getting along, it's not a good sign. Efforts need to be made, people need to be educated, and then there's a chance that they will have a better relationship after they're educated. And we learn this from Hashem too. Hashem, in some ways, left us too. He left us. The temple was destroyed, our home. We were exiled. Hashem was very unhappy, no choice. So he left us, but he didn't abandon us. He promised us through the prophets that he will bring us back home. Hashem is saying that. Even though I was upset at you and I left you, I never divorced you completely. I'm always looking after you. I want to bring you back home. So we see the signs today of how Hashem is bringing back his kids, and we should learn from that men and women who may have drifted apart should also make all the efforts possible to come back. And if they do, Hashem will help it, that it should happen.